Welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. This is web editor Nicole Raleigh, and today I'll be speaking with Markus Vossman, Germany General Manager at Illumina, for a conversation on innovative genomic applications and projects in the region. Welcome, Markus.
Hello, Nicole. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the warm welcome. Happy to be here.
So apologies for my voice today, listeners. I am recovering from a cold, but the discussion must go on. And that conversation will look broadly at the genomics landscape in Germany and in Europe and delve into the impact of genomic technology on patient care as well. To begin with, though, Markus, perhaps you could introduce yourself a little bit and share with listeners the journey that led you to doing what you do today.
Yeah, my name is Markus. I'm a biochemist by training. I did my PhD in virology in Hamburg and spending 4 years on a PhD on a very detailed topic on HIV and interactions of the virus with host cells. I felt like the impact I'm having is potentially important, but maybe not important enough. So I felt I needed to take a closer look at the bigger themes in science and the wider view of what's going on in science and the big trends. So I decided to leave basic research and join a commercial company. And very early on, I found my way then in 2009 to Illumina. So I joined Illumina. Back then, Illumina was introducing groundbreaking new technology in the field of next generation sequencing. And that technology promised to deliver phenomenal insights into research and into the science of the genome. So I joined Illumina. I held various commercial roles in the company, and I'm very happy that since last year, I'm now general manager for Illumina in Germany, being responsible for everything good and bad Illumina does in Germany. And we're trying to do much more good than bad.
Well, that sounds an okay ethos for life, trying to do much more good than bad. I like that, Markus. Thank you for that introduction. So speaking about groundbreaking technologies, Illumina innovative sequencing and array technologies are fueling groundbreaking advancements in life sciences research, translational and consumer genomics, and molecular diagnostics. So to kick off our conversation today, Markus, can you provide a brief history of the genomics landscape, as I say, a history in miniature, if you will, and also describe the point at which we are now?
Yeah, maybe I start with the Human Genome Project. I think most people are aware of that. It was big in the news. I still remember it. In 2003, I think the project was finished. It was a huge endeavor and a huge undertaking involving, I think, tens of thousands of scientists. It took, I think, also 10 years, and the cost of sequencing the first human genome was way more than $1 billion. So this didn't sound like a very scalable technology back then. But there were massive improvements in technology in the following years. And Illumina was driving many of these and becoming the market leader for next generation sequencing. And it's called next generation sequencing because the technology that Illumina introduced is able to massively parallelize sequencing. So by that, driving the output to a totally different scale and also driving down the cost of sequencing. So, and over the time, Illumina kept improving the technology, kept improving the data outputs and the data amounts, and kept reducing pricing, so that nowadays we are at a point in time where sequencing a whole genome is not a matter of 10 years, it's a matter of 24 hours, and it's not one genome. It's usually 64 or 128 genomes in parallel in a single sequencing run on an Illumina sequencer. So this is a scale that was totally unimaginable 20 years ago when the first Human Genome Project was finished. And it's also at a scale now where the technology is absolutely suitable to be implemented in routine patient care. So it's at a cost point where healthcare systems are totally able to afford genomic information for directing patient treatments in cancer and in rare diseases. And this is being done now. in various healthcare systems, but obviously also in Germany.
Thank you for that. As you say, incredible scale, incredible speed. But I want to sort of hone in on next generation sequencing, or NGS, which you mentioned. And NGS is proving, as you say, to be an indispensable tool for deeply understanding the molecular basis of tumors and guiding increasingly personalized therapeutic choices with faster, more accurate diagnoses. But I just wondered, how is this, if you may, exemplified in Germany in particular?
Yeah, so in Germany, we've been focusing in Germany very early on the clinical markets because we felt this is the most important area where we can drive innovation. It has an impact on patients. I live in Germany, I'm a German citizen, so I also am very interested in improving patient care in my own country. So we focused on that early on. And with small steps over time, every year, there was the introduction of reimbursement already in 2016 in Germany. This also drove the uptake in clinical settings. And nowadays, rare disease patients in Germany do have access at specialized healthcare centers to whole genome sequencing. And for these rare disease patients, you are looking at a diagnostic odyssey that usually takes, on average, 7 to 8 years until they finally get a diagnosis. And whole genome sequencing for those patients can speed this up drastically. So you can do a whole genome for those patients and improve diagnostic yield. So more patients than before get a diagnosis at all. And this is of very high benefit for the patients, obviously, and also for the healthcare system. And you mentioned also cancer testing, so oncology testing. Cancer is, if you want to put it like that, is a disease of the genome. So there's various mutations in the genome that drive the progression of cancer. So for those patients, it is obviously super important to understand what's going on in the genome of the tumor that they are suffering from. And there's also now many drugs available on the market that have been developed by various pharmaceutical companies that are very specific, that can target these mutations in these patients so that you can nowadays select the right therapy for a patient and don't have to test and try and give something to a patient that has no effect on the patient or even a negative effect on the patient. So it has evolved by quite a lot. And you can imagine a cancer patient, you don't really have time to try for another 3 months a therapy that is not working for that patient because the cancer is progressing. So the impact next-gen sequencing is having also in Germany on patient lives in rare disease and oncology testing is tremendous.
Thank you, Markus. So this provides a natural segue, if you will, to discussing the model project. The model project is a large-scale national pilot project aiming to evaluate the utility of genomic sequencing for patients, as Markus has been discussing, within oncology, or in this case, advanced oncology, advanced cancer, and rare diseases. So did you want to more specifically speak about and to the model project, Markus?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the model project is a very important project for Germany and also obviously for Illumina in Germany. I mentioned the advancements in cancer testing and in rare disease testing before. These were usually happening in very specialized hospital settings, and the model project is now taking many of the learnings and the results and is trying to implement whole genome sequencing on a national scale into the country. So this is not happening at one center under very controlled conditions. The model project is happening at 27 different university clinics that are spread across the country in Germany. And it's addressing, again, rare disease testing and oncology testing. And the goal of the model project is to evaluate the implementation of whole genome sequencing into the routine healthcare settings in these university clinics and to prove the value of whole genome sequencing for rare disease testing and also for oncology testing in these 27 centers. And ideally, the outcome of the model project is that the value of whole genome sequencing is demonstrated, and also the feasibility to implement whole genome sequencing testing into routine hospital settings is also demonstrated, and then to roll this out, obviously, to more than the 27 university clinics across the country. So to make it much more accessible for all of the 84 million citizens we have in Germany, and in case they have cancer or rare disease, that they have access to whole genome sequencing.
Just brilliant. And though my next question might seem obscure to listeners as yet, I am going to ask it. What about Baby Lion, Markus?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Baby Lion is a groundbreaking study that we have supported that was performed at the medical school in Hanover in Lower Saxony in Germany. And Baby Lion was designed as a feasibility study. So specifically designed for testing of critically ill children suspected to be suffering from a rare disease. And it was designed also to showcase the implementation of very rapid whole genome sequencing. Because for some of those patients, it's really, really important to have a diagnosis very, very fast, because otherwise they don't have any options left. So that was initiated in 2022. 130 patients have been enrolled into this study over the course of 2 years. And it was very, very successful, this study. So the researchers and physicians in Hanover were able to show that, first of all, it is absolutely feasible to implement whole genome sequencing in a clinical routine setting in a university clinic. The average time from the patient entering the clinic to getting a full diagnostic report, including all the paperwork and everything that's needed to do that in Germany, was on average less than 5 days. So absolutely super fast, and also as fast as needed for those patients. And maybe the most important thing about Baby Lion is it was able to demonstrate that the diagnostic yield has increased by 10%. I never like, frankly, those percentages in healthcare settings and in statistics, but in this case, this means from those 130 children that were critically ill, there's 13 children more that get a diagnosis and have options than without that. So this is really making a difference, and I'm very happy about the results. The researchers and physicians in Hanover are now taking it to a next level. They want to expand the number of cases they are including into future studies in Hanover, and it was also an important study for paving the way of the model project.
Thank you, Markus. Making a difference indeed. And as listeners will no doubt have noticed with this conversation today, at centre is very much the patient. So I want to turn once more to Illumina's own activities in Germany. And Illumina's technology is undoubtedly supporting a paradigm shift in Germany, moving from sick care to true healthcare and embedding, as you've been discussing, genomics into healthcare systems. And to this end, Illumina supports projects such as Genome DE, Vision Zero Oncology, and many other programs. So Markus, as we come to the sort of tail end of our discussion today, can you tell us just a little bit more? I know we've been discussing it slightly, but a little bit more about this work around patient care.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I mentioned Illumina is focusing on clinical in Germany quite a lot for quite some time. And we've achieved tremendous success already in implementing genomic technologies into the healthcare system already. But I still think we are more or less at the beginning of this. If you look at oncology testing, for example, usually genomics as a tool for helping find the right therapeutic for a cancer patient is usually used as a last line. So at the very end of the patient journey. And one of our focus areas is, and also not only of us as a company, but also of our customers in Germany, is to move this to earlier stages, ideally for cancer as a first line, because I absolutely believe if cancer is a disease of the genome, it is absolutely crucially important to have the genomic information about the tumor as early on as possible, because we also mentioned cancer patients, they usually run out of time. So you don't want to wait to the very end until you finally do genomic testing. You want to move this early on. This is not necessarily easy or quick. There's medical guidelines out there, and they are there for a reason, for a very good reason. But we are trying to create and give some evidence that the time point when genomics comes into play for cancer patients is moved to earlier stages over time. So this is one of the examples we are working on in Germany.
Thank you, Markus. So my final question today, all things considered that we've been discussing, what does the future horizon for you look like in 5 years from now?
Good question. 5 years. That's sounds like a long time. It's a short time in clinical, I think. But I hope that in 5 years' time, we will have moved, at least for some cancer patients, from last line to first line testing with genomics. That is one area where I think where there's a lot of value for using genomic technologies in clinical healthcare. But Illumina is also driving further the technology of next generation sequencing. So we are working on a technology called Constellation that will increase the value of a whole genome to another level, because it will make structural variations and some variants much easier to detect. And they most likely also have therapeutic implications. So we are further improving technology. We think we can also then implement that technology into the healthcare system for the benefit of the patients. And another area that Illumina is heavily investing on is multi-omics. So we've been talking about genomics a lot. There's other things in the patient's body. There's epigenetic information in the DNA. There's proteomic information in the bloodstream of patients. And we have technologies available that are mainly used in research right now, but we are also trying to move these other omics to make them accessible for the healthcare system, to drive further implementation into the healthcare system for the benefit of the patients. What you need for that, and this is another area Illumina is also working on a lot, is software. The amount of data for genomics is already huge. Human genome is 3 billion letters. Usually you sequence 120 billion letters. So really large numbers. And then you add other omics to that, and you try to set this into context. So you need very powerful software. And Illumina is heavily invested into software because it is super important not only to create the data, but also to analyze the data and put different data sources into context. And I'm sure with AI, where Illumina is also relatively high invested in, there's a lot to be done in research first, and then in clinical to also further drive utility and impact for patient care in the country. So I think, and I hope in 5 years' time, technology has evolved further to higher quality levels. The testing has moved to earlier stages in the country, and there's hopefully also other data points outside of genomics that are easily accessible in 5 years' time that can supplement the genomic information to again further drive the usefulness of data while treating a patient.
Thank you very much for your time today, Markus. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And that concludes another episode of the pharmaphorum podcast. You can find more information about this episode, including a download link and information about previous installments at pharmaphorum.com/podcasts. The pharmaphorum podcast is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Podbean, and pretty much wherever else you download your other podcasts from. Just search for pharmaphorum and follow and hit subscribe. Of course, don't forget to visit our website itself, where you can sign up for daily and weekly news and analysis bulletins. And do follow us on Blue Sky and LinkedIn at pharmaphorum. That's all for now. Thank you for listening.